I also had to get okay with the fact of, I'm not going to lower any of my standards or any of my service. I'm not going to lessen any of that to compete with people that are offering something that is not, I feel like it's inferior to the service that I can provide. So I need to hold steady with my pricing, and because I know what I am bringing and I know what I'm providing, and I actually made more money.
Welcome to another episode of The Diligent Leader. I'm Alex Ficcari. I'm one of your guests/hosts today, and I have here with me
Holly Basta.
Yeah, one of our also guests/hosts today. So today we wanted to change things up a little bit and really talk about what we're seeing in the industry. Now, why should you listen to what we have to say? Not that we are the authority, but to kind of share with you. Holly and I both have a lot of experience working with businesses. I mean, almost 2 decades of experience working, collaborating, getting to know businesses. And so what we wanted to do is just share some of the things that we see and some of the challenges. And I thought that would be good just to have the dialogue between you and I and just see, if we're on the same page, or, share it with some of our guests, our viewers.
Absolutely. And I think a large component of taking a deeper dive into this conversation is really talking in terms of, businesses that can evolve and businesses that can, maybe you have a vision, but then, you're open to ideas and you can really widen that out in the scope. And the other thing I think that's really great, as we've been talking, is that I think that this program is going to focus a lot on the strategy that business leaders use when they're implementing new ideas, or when they are going through an evolution or a growth period, an expansion. So I think that that's what people will have interest in, because there is a lot of insight to be gained from people that have been doing business and have tried things, tried things that maybe didn't work out, but they keep pushing forward. And so I think that's one of the things that I love about talking with you, Alex, is because you understand that not every single idea is going to take off.
Right.
And I think from talking with you, I found it very interesting. But I think it's one of the things that makes you a great business leader is knowing when things are done, knowing when it's just not working and things need to move on. Because I think that we've all, anybody who's owned a business has come to a point in the process or in their journey where they're not sure if things are going to work, and you have a lot of questions. And then at that point, it really becomes a strategy. Either you can pull out and you can overcome and then you can succeed, or you say that this is, just
it's run its course.
Not going to work.
Yeah. And, it is a challenge. And no matter who you talk to, there's a lot of great people giving their advice, they're sharing their insights with you, and all best intentions, across the board. We'll give credit there. I think at the end of the day, though, is every business is unique. Well, and I mean, I'm not saying there's no two alike. What I am saying is, though, there are certain types of personalities and certain types of conditions and certain types of businesses that make it seem almost like every business is its own, thing. And so the reason I was kind of wanting to talk about this topic of, strategies and marketing and what you're doing and what works and what doesn't is because I've seen it all too often where somebody will come in and say, here, I'm going to put your name on the back of register receipts, and it's seen by 10,000 people a day. And you're like, oh my gosh. And it's for the low price of $700. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is great. But realistically, it's the timing. Like that may have been a good idea back in 1980, right? That may have been a good idea for 6 months of that window that it was a viable option. But marketing is not a set it and forget it. It's I always say that it's a relationship builder, right? And you're trying to build awareness. You're trying to, create a sense of trust. And so you have to look at your marketing in a dynamic way. And I think a lot of the businesses that are out there, they're sold on, here's your SEO package, and that's all it is. Or here is your pay per click, Google AdWords. That's all you get. Or your yellow pages, right? Whatever it is. And it's what ends up happening And I think the problem for business owners is that they take this shotgun approach to problem solving something with no real plan and not understanding what their expectations really should be. That's the
Well,
problem I see.
I do see that as a problem too. And I think one of the other challenges that I've noticed just in working with businesses is one of the things that they need to do right up front before you even start the business is you need to identify your target demographic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm always amazed when I talk to people and they don't know or they
Yeah.
can't easily identify and they're just, sort of. So at that point, you're really not helping yourself grow because if you're not targeting your marketing to those specific groups, then it's not effective. So, and just to take your example, because I have worked with businesses that are in the service industry and they still have older clients that rely on the yellow pages. Now, we don't have those giant phone books like we used to sit on, right?
Yeah,
When we
yeah.
were kids.
We don't have to name all our companies AAAA Consulting. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but they do have smaller community-based publications that
Sure.
are out there
Yep.
now, and there's still people that use them.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have people that call an old business that was advertised years ago, and they're
Right.
still calling. So that was effective because it's still it's
it was the
still
way to do
getting
it.
results.
Right,
But like you said, not every single business is going to be able to get results like that, and I think it
Right.
depends on what type of business it is as well.
So let me give you an example. So like I have one of my businesses is a daycare center. We have 45 children, number of teachers, and the level of marketing and I was surprised, right? I have a marketing background. And so I thought, I'm going to run campaigns. I'm going to do social media ads. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to, do all these things that I do every single day. That level of effort was much different in a daycare, right? You basically put up a sign, right? And you make sure, there's consistency in the branding inside. Everybody gets nice shirts. Everybody has bags.
Yes.
Like, so where I invest my dollars changes, right? I'm not necessarily running pay-per-click ads. Why? Because of all the businesses, that's a trust relationship. You're not going to give me your children because I have a nice fancy ad on social media. It's not going to work that way, right? But I need to know that for that business model and that ownership mentality that I had to evolve into is that it's a different process. Like I need to make sure the tangible things there are the priority where I invest my dollars, or what the people are where I have to really focus in on, because it's high exposure, it's high interfacing, right? Not saying all businesses aren't, but if I'm selling widgets online, there is no interfacing, right? It's all electronic. And I have Kingdom Cookies and I can sell customers anywhere versus a hyper local area. And so that's just an example versus when I'm working, from Mojo's side. We're promoting Mojo. It's still very relationship driven. I still do have some physical printing costs and advertising, but I also have a digital component, right? I can disseminate a message there. So again, what's good for one business isn't good for another. And I've worked in, and not a boastful way at all, but I've known you for many years, and you and I both know there's so many businesses you had no idea existed, whether they're selling private jets to private owners
right.
or painting them or selling bolts or whatever. There's so many little businesses out there, and they all require a different approach.
They do. And believe it or not, I know this is going to be a really scary concept to put out there, but I have worked with a business that didn't do any marketing.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
As crazy as
crazy.
that sounds.
No,
but
it's
very
unfair. I'm
Well-
pissed off. Like, good for you. The rest of us don't get that option. But no, it's it's one of those things. They are out there.
Yeah, there are these little niche sort of entities that do specialty services, and they're known within the industry or the trades or whatever, and they just they don't have to market themselves. However, one of those companies that I worked with, what I did was work with them to begin marketing because when the housing market imploded and contractors were going out of business left and right, projects were being canceled, funders weren't backing these big renovations and things like that. The company decided that they wanted to move into the residential game, and that was a totally different animal.
Absolutely.
To even from a business perspective, to go from potentially marketing a commercial entity into going into a residential component. And so it took a whole different vision on how that was going to work. And, of course, there were many people that came to me and said, well, I can do this for you, and you should do this, and you need to do that. And because I had the background in marketing and working in business, I was able to make, I feel like, better and I'll say more informed decisions about what I thought was best for us.
Sure.
And of course, there were people that didn't agree with me, or there were people who had been in the business that said, well, this is what we're doing. And they were spending a ton of money in the phone books, or they were spending a ton of money on SEO. And I just thought, no, I'm not going to do that. So we did end up doing the phone book thing, like I said, and that was great for residential and older customers. But there was also a lot of social media engagement that was done at that time, and that was really critical for the residential business. So, I mean, can you talk a little bit about, maybe an instance where you've worked with a business that was doing something that was slightly, unique, and how you sort of strategized with them to come up with the best plan?
Yeah, I can definitely do that, but I want to digress a little bit and to kind of set an expectation. When a lot of the businesses that are out there, when they're putting together their plans, you said, they go try these things, and realistically, they don't know. There's an eagerness, there's a responsiveness. They want to move, but we only do what we know, right? Those things that don't feel comfortable are the things that we typically don't do, and so I think that when a business is going to say, hey, I'm going to do this, they have to first have the mindset that this is going to be an experiment, right? And I think most people are willing to say that, do it, a little bit of a challenge, but you kind of have to maintain it as well, right? Because marketing is really about frequency and consistency, right? And that doesn't always mean it's the same channel on every Tuesday at 2:00 in the afternoon. What it does mean, though, is that I'm going to continually push my message out there, and that varies based upon where you're at in that business. So even if I talk about this example here in a moment of some of the businesses that we've worked with, understanding where that business is at that moment. So there's a rule we live by, right? And you can affirm if you've heard the same thing. This is what I've heard. But if you're starting a brand new business in a brand new market, and it's a brand new business, brand new market, and you're trying to you're generating sales for the very first time, you're going to have to put upwards of like 15% of your gross into your marketing plan.
That's right.
However, if I'm selling, let's say, a new product to an existing marketplace, then I might lower that down to 10%. Right? And I'm using 10% as a rough number. It's actually like 9.07, but whatever. But then if I'm just maintaining a presence so they know I exist, now this is true bottom base brand awareness, then I'm really closer to 5%. Now statistics show, of course, nationwide that most businesses only spend 4%. 4% on their marketing. And yet we wonder why we don't have more business. And I think it's because people, what is it? They don't know the expected result, and they're sold a different bill of goods rather than taking the time. They're technicians. They're doing what they do really well, but they slow down and say, "Hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to really have a plan behind it." That takes a lot, and if you don't know what it is, then again, you're not going to take the time to understand it, and that's another kind of underlying thing, and that's where to kind of transition to answer your question. We have worked with businesses that they had an obscure service, and what we did is we helped. I don't say obscure service. That's not the right kind of phrase. I don't mean it that way. It just wasn't what I call a mainline business.
Sure.
Right. And what we did was we realized that for them, they were specifically in the like estate auction kind of thing. They need to generate leads and awareness about their ability to go in, clear out an estate, and then auction it off and do their business. Now I'm not saying it doesn't exist. There's plenty of businesses out there like that, but our approach couldn't just be, okay, this is what we're going to do. We had to find business affiliates to link them up to so they could have some organic lower cost growth, right, based upon referrals and things along those lines. But then, yes, we needed to start creating content based on topics. So we leveraged SEO, right? And then there was even a strategy behind that, which maybe we'll talk about today, maybe not. But the idea was everything was specific to that customer that lined up with them. And unfortunately, there are companies out there, I'm not going to badmouth any particular one of them, but They're the companies, I'll describe them this way: companies that sell pay-per-click or SEO services in broad stroke, and then they get people out there who really aren't technicians. They followed a 2-week boot camp and now they're experts, right? And so
Yes.
we know those, right? We know who those people are, and best intentions maybe at one point, but when you're trying to scale, you can't provide that custom service.
Those are my hard sellers when we go to the networking things, and they're like so intense.
Yes, and passionate, man. Like,
And like
pro
5 minutes.
company, you know.
Yeah,
like, yeah.
5 minutes they're trying to get you to sign a contract. And I'm like, whoa, I'm just trying to see if I can take this
like,
all in this
I
like
wanna talk
5 minute
to you.
period. And I want to hear more about this, but yeah, we're not going to be making any sales right now.
Yeah, that's and unfortunately those companies are there, and that's who you're contending with, because guess what? They do really well.
Yeah.
They market themselves, right? And they go to where they know their audience. They're businesses that are in flux, who are stressed out, who don't have sales, and they need help, and they don't have an internal marketing team. So guess what? Here comes that big company. We're your internal marketing team. We're just like you. We're here for you. We'll be a part of your organization. We'll give you reports. All those things that a business owner needs to hear. And truth be told, yeah, we need to hear them, and that's what motivates us, but that's not what moves the needle. And guess what will happen? In 6 months, that service will end. And they know that. And so they have minimum requirements. They have certain engagements. They're making their money quickly because they know the life cycle is very fast. And again, this is not even to beat them up. They're in business just like I am and you are. Like, there is a reason why we do what we do. So that being said, I think it's really important that a business owner, if they want any chance to succeed, they need to understand, even though they didn't go to school, like they went to school to learn their craft, right? I mean, you guys went there and said, I want to be a professional, whatever, right? And then you said at one point, I'm going to be in business to do X because I'm good at doing X. But the truth is, you have to, just like you need to know your numbers. Like, you just chose to be in business or in a leadership position, you need to know the numbers, and you need to know the concept of marketing. You do need to execute it all? No. But you need to have proper expectations. Do you need to know, if I throw water up in the air, will it land? Absolutely. This is not magic. And the same thing goes to marketing. And so I said all that because when we looked back at this as, a state company where we did the work, I actually, even forget them. I'll have a funnier story. This is going back like 20 years ago. I had somebody come into my door, and they were in the real estate, and nobody I know today, but they came in and they said, I'm selling real estate. Will you help us design a brochure? And so we designed the brochure. Weeks and weeks went into designing it. And they wanted to hire their own copywriter, and they wanted to do their own thing, but we designed it anyway, and we warned them, and we did what we were supposed to do. We took the magazine, and it was ready. They came and picked it up, and they dropped it off at all the welcome stations in the area, right? And that they wanted people to get these magazines. That was on a Friday. On Monday, I got a call. Well, I'm really mad. I'm like, well, what's the matter? I'm thinking maybe it's a typo. Like, no, I haven't had any calls yet. I'm like, come on. From Friday to Monday, dropping a magazine off. And granted, this was 20 years ago, but still 2004. Not everybody was reading everything then. So there was an unrealistic expectation. And so, but it wasn't my job at that time to coach them on the best solution. It was, they wanted something specific and we did it. But I think that as a business owner, you need to know, okay, if I'm going to hire this person to do this job, I should have a proper expectation.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're hurting yourself. Like, you don't have you're throwing money away. Like, very real money, you're throwing away because you didn't take the time. You don't need to be an expert, but you need to make an educated decision. I usually say, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, but what I'll say is that I saw it in a movie one time, and I say it all the time because it's really cool. It was about, it was the mob movie with about the creation of Las Vegas and where it got started. I forget the name. Beatty or something like that. But anyway, in the movie, it says the mob guy says, he looks at his guy and he goes, I cannot walk around like this in a constant state of ignorance. I need to make decisions. And like, that just resonated with me. Like, you cannot walk around in a constant state of ignorance. Like, you need to make decisions from a good perspective.
And you can't make decisions if you don't know what's going on.
Right.
So if you don't have something to quantify.
Yeah. And it can't just be a report emailed to you.
No. And I think that, on the most basic level, most businesses would probably measure success on how many customers they got, as you had said. However, I think that as marketing and branding have evolved, now we understand that those customers may not make a sale on their first approach, but their interest is still gauged as, from an analytical perspective, that is still gauged as a successful marketing campaign. If you've done something and now they're contacting you and they want to know more about your services.
Yes.
But I think, again, the management of the expectations from both the client perspective and the person that's doing the
service,
marketing
whatever
as well is very, very important. Because again, you could have 10 inquiries that say, "Hey, Alex, I'm interested in learning more about how you make web design or how you, how you work with clients." Not every one of those is going to hit, but even if you got 10 inquiries and not one sale, but you're still now building your relationship with these folks. I mean, I would argue that's a measure of success that I would be interested in.
How many, I'm curious from your perspective, how many businesses have you talked to that understood that from the get-go?
None.
Yeah.
None. Unless they do this.
Yeah.
And even sometimes I, as a professional that's worked in this industry, struggle with knowing whether or not some of the offers and opportunities that are presented are worthwhile.
Sure.
Because in particular, when you're doing, I'm not a huge fan of mailers, but for some businesses, they work. And if it's seasonal and you have that plan in your strategy, you're going to get customers. I know a company, he's in all the mailers, and he is doing very, very well. Very well. I mean, if you can offer some kind of a special offer or a coupon, that's also very important.
But he knows his audience, right? He knows what's working. His audience reads
homeowners.
That. Right. His audience reads that. I know a guy who I hope to have on the show one day where he throws a bag of rocks, a mesh little net with rocks in it, and his postcard attached to it, and he throws it into the yard. Right?
Yeah, I've done that.
Okay, that stuff works. Like, it's
it
crazy. Like, you got to think outside. I'm sorry, outside the box. You got to think about it, but it's something you do have to. But to go back to your point, as we start to kind of wrap some of this kind of conversation up, I loved what you said. Is that the strategy? There's different types of marketing, right? There's action-based marketing. There's different ways we measure it now because of the different technologies. But I think that most of our generation of business owners today are hyper-focused on, I need my lead, my sale right now. I don't negate that, right? I do understand the value. I mean, I have people to pay too. But there's brand awareness. Like, brand awareness is a vital role in what we do, right? And I want to share, and thanks for bringing this up here, as I wrote some notes. I hope I can say I'm getting old. But I want to share to you these tidbits that were shared. I read this in this book one time. So indulge me. It's 20 bullets. It'll be worth it, I promise. First time somebody looks at an advertisement, they don't see it, right? It just kind of goes by them. The second time, still doesn't notice it. The third time, they're conscious of the decision that it exists. Like, they see it, there's something there. The fourth time, they faintly remember having seen it before. And the fifth time, they actually read it. The sixth time, they kind of turn their nose up at it, right? Because the redundancy. Then the seventh time, they say, oh man, here it is again. The seventh time I see this dang thing again, right? I'm thinking TikTok, right? All this over and over and over again. And then the eighth time, they get that confounded thing yet again. The ninth time, they wonder, if it will amount to anything. Is this actually going to make it? And then it's like the 10th time, they ask their neighbor, have you tried this? Have you seen this? And then the 11th time, they start to wonder, how is this advertiser paying for this? Like, this is crazy. And then the 12th time, he thinks this must be a good thing. It's still here. Then the 13th time, they start thinking it might be worth something. Maybe I'll check it out. The 14th time, they remember they've been wanting this for such a long time. I know I want this thing. And then the 15th time, he's just tantalized by the idea that they can't afford it. Like, dang it, I really want that, And the 17th time, I'm going to make a note, I'm going to buy it. The 18th time, I'm mad at my poverty because I can't afford it.
I'm mad at my poverty.
Yeah. and then the 19th time is they start counting the money really carefully. And then finally on the 20th time, they see the ad and they buy it. Okay. Now, this reminds me every day on TikTok, every time we're doing this, but guess what? This book was actually written by a guy named Thomas Smith in 1885. Mm-hmm. And I share that with you because the fact is, fundamentally, we are the same people we were back then. And we need to understand, we need to value brand awareness, we need to value marketing, it needs to come with a plan. And I think to your point, it needs to have, you need to have a strategy,
Absolutely.
Not a shotgun approach to marketing.
Well, and I've had conversations with business owners and also with executives about this very topic and say to them, I need you to understand that it's going to take, 12 to 20 times. And that's usually my window. I say 12 to 20. 12 to 20 times of somebody hearing this before it's going to resonate with them. And they're going to, and that then, I usually get like a kind of a blank stare because in their mind, they're trying to understand the value. Just like you said, why would I want to do this if it's got to happen, if somebody's got to see? Because in their expectation, I feel like some of the leaders or some of the owners are thinking just like you said, it's going to be a one-hit wonder. Everybody's going to love this right off the bat. And that's not to say some of these things aren't amazing.
You're right. It might be a fantastic idea. Like I came up with a fantastic idea for a T-shirt the other day, and I know it sounds really weird to say, but I did. It's really a fantastic idea for a T-shirt. I'm not going to say it because I'm going to see it on Amazon.
The diligent leader.
No, yeah, there you go. No, but it was a great idea. But the thought was, okay, do I have the wherewithal? Can I go the distance with this? Because going back to the shotgun approach, you take a shotgun approach to shooting, you're going to get shotgun results. You might get lucky. You might hit it, right? So if you use a shotgun, get close up on the target, right? Get close to your customer, know where that customer is.
Right.
So
one more thing I want to throw in here. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but I think it's very important for this conversation because, again, as a business owner myself, I have had to really dig down deep and ask myself these questions.
Sure.
What is my target client?
Yes.
I hate to say this, but there's junk clients.
No,
there's junk clients that I don't want.
There are.
And for different
They're not
reasons.
ready for you. You're not ready for them.
Exactly.
Yep, that's
Maybe
all
it's just not. It's just not a perfect union, and that's okay. And I'm okay with that. But I also had to get okay with the fact of, I'm not going to lower any of my standards or any of my service. I'm not going to lessen any of that to compete with people that are offering something that is not. I feel like it's inferior to the service that I can provide. So I need to hold steady with my pricing, and because I know what I am bringing and I know what I'm providing. And I actually made more money once I stopped doing the discounted stuff, and the specials.
Yep.
And so I think from a business perspective, both from marketing and as the owner, you really have to know your market, know your customer, manage your own expectations. Or what am I trying to do? Do I really want, and I'll go back to a conversation you and I had because I loved it, but you have a bottom line.
Yeah.
There's a certain type of client that I am in pursuit of.
Right, exactly.
And the others just might not be
a good fit then.
A good fit for me here. Yeah. And so identifying that up front is going to save a lot of time.
It does.
And heartache and probably resources.
Yeah, I will tell you, just for those who don't know who their target customer is, because we said most people don't. In full candor, all right, it took a long time for me to find my perfect client or know how to identify them quickly. I'll say it that way. I knew what I was selling. I knew what my standards were. I knew what I wanted. But to know how to perfectly hunt down and find that ideal client, it took a long time because it just does. So encourage you to keep it up. I mean, it's one of those things where it's a never-ending pursuit, but I'm glad to have talked about this with you today.
But you know what the great thing and what I love about this business and marketing and branding is that there is no right way and no wrong way per se. There's differing ways. There's enhancing ways, and there's and as you said, not every key fits every hole. Yeah. So that's businesses. Need to start thinking about their branding from day one. If you're thinking about starting a business, that's one of the things up front that you need to identify. Who are my customers? What's my brand? What's my voice? Because every single thing you say and do from that point has to be in alignment, or you're not going to meet your mark.
Well, not to be super cheesy, but you got to be diligent.
Diligent leaders.
There you go. So thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. It was great hearing.
This has been a fabulous conversation.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think that folks will be interested to hear some of these tips because, these are the kind of tips that you get when you pay for a seminar to go tell you how to market your business.
Put your credit card in the comments below and we'll be good to go.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that share button for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to continue to talk with you and share more insights.
Yeah, and share it with your friends who are thinking about opening business or who may be starting a business. And of course, if you have ideas about things that you'd like to hear us talk about here on The Diligent Leader, we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to be a guest, send us a message.
Yeah.
We'd love to talk about you and your experience and sort of your journey as a business leader.
As you start to master it.
That's right.
That's great. All right. Well, thanks for
Thank
watching.
you, Alex. Thank you for
Holly.
watching.
That's
This
great.
has been The Diligent Leader. I'm one of your co-hosts, Holly Basta.
And I'm Alex Ficari.